Welcome back to Simple Truth. Hey, we're in chapter 42 of Genesis. I know I spent 2 weeks on verse 6. I spent a week on 7 and 8. I've been challenged to spend 3 weeks on verse 9, but I'm not going to do it for you guys. But let's read verse 9. It says this, and Joseph, starting in verse 8, and Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. And Joseph remembered the dreams that he had dreamed of them. And he said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land." And they said to him, "No, my lord. Your servants have come to buy food. We are all sons of one man. We are honest men. Your servants have never been spies." I'm going to get stuck because you see this verse, these 3 verses, right? 9, 10, and 11. You see how it works, right? Joseph remembered his dreams, right? I tend to think that remembering is purposeful in nature, right? I tend to think that God brings about memories at just the right time for the right reasons. I also believe that the enemy has us remember things for his reasons, right? The enemy wants us to remember our past. The enemy wants us to remember how we were hurt. The enemy wants us to remember how somebody treated us. The enemy wants us to remember what it looked like, what it felt like, what it tasted like. All of these things, right? God wants us to remember him. There's a humongous difference between what God wants and what the enemy wants, right? God wants us to remember him. That's what the Old Testament tells us over and over. Remember me, remember me, remember me. Those are the things that happen. The enemy wants us to remember all the things that happen with it. So, hey, remember when you felt really good? Well, it's because you did this. Remember when you felt this? Remember when you tasted this? Remember how you liked this? Remember, he constantly is having us focus on the feelings, the emotions, the things. God's idea of remembering is for his purpose, his plan, and that we remember him. So Joseph remembers his dreams, and look at what he does. He tests his brother. Now, listen, at this moment in life, Joseph has all the power, all the authority to do whatever he wants to do to these men. He could throw them in jail. He could kill them. He could send them back with hungry. He could do a million things. And guess what? Every one of them deserves it. Every one of them, Joseph has a right to throw his rock, right? He has a right to do whatever he wants to do to them. This is a long time in the making. And instead, what Joseph does is he remembers the dream and he turns over things to God, right? Again, we know the end of this. We know that God is going to intervene here, and Joseph's going to say to them, "Hey, what you remembered, what you did, what you said, God used it for good," right? But he tells his brothers, "Hey, you're spies. You're just coming to see the nakedness of the land, to see what it is that you can do, to see what shape we're in," right? But here's what I find super ironic, right? These men are looking at the brother that they sold into slavery out of jealousy. And look at what they say. "We are all sons of one man. We are honest men." Is that a true statement? Do they have any right to be saying that to Joseph? Joseph knows that wasn't a true statement. But we know, right, again, the Bible tells us at the beginning of the story that after they sell Joseph into slavery, the brothers couldn't console their father. But they suddenly realized what they had done. We're going to know at the end of this story, as we piece it all together, that they actually verbalized that. Right? They're concerned about that. So much so that when their dad dies, they go to Joseph and said, like, "Hey, remember, you're not going to hold these things against us," right? This is important. But I want to challenge you with something, and that is this: that just because somebody has a dishonest moment doesn't mean that they're not an honest person, right? When we label somebody a dishonest person for the rest of their life because of something they did here, we're cheapening what Jesus did on the cross, right? Jesus makes people honest, not us. We don't make people honest. On my own, I can't be honest because truth is relative. With God, there's absolute truth. There's things that are just true no matter what. Doesn't matter what I do or not, it's true. But we tend to do whatever we want to do. We tend to do what is right in our own eyes, right? So I want you to be challenged by this. Is there somebodies that you've labeled as dishonest because years ago, a day ago, a few seconds ago, they did something that wasn't honest? Are you labeling them and making that stick with them? Saying, hey, I don't know what's happened the last 13 years as Joseph, but back here you were dishonest, right? Now you're telling me that you're honest. Joseph's going to come up with an entire plan, right? An entire system, a process, right? That is going to show the honesty of these men, that they actually had changed. Do you know that God is going to do that? He tends to come up with a process that shows you that, hey, you have changed. Shows other people, hey, you've changed. You know, some people are never going to believe that you've changed because it benefits them to believe that you didn't change, right? It benefits them in some way, shape, or form. It's the problem when people go to jail, when people live in a mental jail, an emotional jail that we put them in, right? But they paid their price for whatever it was that they did, and then they get out. And some of us still want to punish them for what they did back then. So think about that. Maybe somebody's called you dishonest. They've labeled you. And that's sticking with you. And God says, no, that's not how it has to be. I will put you through a refining process that shows that that you're honest because of what Jesus has done in you. Hey, join me next time for Simple Truth.